we did it.
Wow.
We did it.
I definitely,
Hello,
On
everyone. To those of you jumping in on just the video end, this doesn't make sense because of
We just did a bit.
You just, but listen to the podcast bit. Roomy Soccer Movies. We'll put the link on the screen. There we go. We did it.
Nice.
But you missed the first half of our awesome podcast where we talk about all things movie news and reviews. But welcome to our 100th episode, and welcome to our new studio.
It's not a new studio, but it kind of feels like a new studio.
Are things in it that weren't in it before?
It's the same studio.
Are there
It's the
more
same
things
room.
in it? It's okay. It's the
New
it's a new
studio.
layout of the old studio.
Yeah,
Jackson,
I
I
will
don't know
agree.
why you
I'll
gotta be
agree
so
with that one.
specific.
Why are you being
Why are you
angry?
like this right
You know,
now?
I just like
On our
correcting
100th
people when they're
episode,
wrong.
seriously?
Ant-Man and the Wasp, quANTuMAnia.
quANTuMAnia.
Or Ant-Mania.
quANTuMAnia.
We got a little bit of a plot going around. So, from the last one, we all know, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, at the end, Scott Lang done got stuck in the quantum realm. But they were able to get Janet Van Dyne, Hank Pym's wife, who got lost in the quantum realm, out. But then they all got dusted from Thanos. This is what happens when there's 21 movies before this one. In this one, Endgame already happened. Everything's good. But Ant-Man missed those 5 years because he was in the quantum realm. They used that to help with time travel and everything. Good. Everyone's back. Ant-Man helped save the world, and he's riding on that high. Janet's taking over Pym Labs. It's called Pym Van Dyne now, right? Mm-hmm. And she's using Pym particles to just save the world. And it's all really interesting stuff. Stuff that you're like, man, can we see that? But
No. If you want to see it, you can go to Disney's California Adventure, because that's where you go to Pym's test kitchen, where they explain that they've been using Pym particles to make food bigger to help save the world. And they have like posters of all the stuff that they've done. So if you want backstory, go to the theme parks. For
$120.
$170.
$170 for a big pretzel. Anyways, Scott's daughter, Cassie, done had those 5 years without her dad. And so she was trying to figure something out. Recently, her, Hank, and Janet were making a little beacon to kind of, you know how we scan the bottom of the ocean? Like the dolphins do, echolocation. They're using that for the quantum realm. How? But they have a little device, and then Janet's like, we got to turn this off. We got to turn this off. And they're like, why? And they're like, it's not Kang. It's Kang, though. But we don't get to hear his name until an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
We do not hit that. But then, for whatever reason, it was enough time. A little portal opens up. It closes afterwards, which is good, because all of San Francisco would have been
Yeah,
sucked
that
into
would
the
have been
quantum
really
realm. But our main heroes get sucked into the quantum realm, and there they have to find each other and find a way out, all while being chased down by someone who we don't know, called the Conqueror. It's Kang. It's Jonathan Majors Kang in all the posters and advertisements.
And they literally
trailers
told
and-
everyone.
Yeah.
It's like not even a surprise.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
he's got Kang.
they could have done better.
Can Ant-Man and Wasp and our newest hero, Stature, and Hank and Janet, and also the Quantum Realm people, which there's freedom fighters. There's Goop,
And there's MODOK. dude.
MODOK.
Don't forget MODOK.
MODOK's in this, but MODOK's not fighting.
He's not a
Kang.
freedom fighter.
No.
No.
I don't want to rope him in with that.
right,
He
right.
fights the freedom fighters. He's a freedom fighter.
Right.
There's a psychic guy,
left.
Goop guy, Laserhead, the leader lady, and a bunch of others.
And none of them had names,
No,
really.
I think they did.
They all had names. They're just
Yes.
not that
They
memorable.
probably said them once.
Right, once, yeah, nice.
But are all 50 of them enough to beat Kang? Find out right now. So we have our characters. How do we think about Scott Lang / Ant-Man?
So I just came up with a fan theory in my head. We'll talk about
We'll
it
jump
later.
into fan theories near the end.
Scott Lang, Ant-Man. I have something to complain about this movie in its entirety, but it relates exclusively to characters. There were shots where I was like, that is Paul Rudd, or like, that is Michael Douglas. And then there were shots where it felt like their heads were really thin. Did you guys notice that? Like, there were shots in the movie where it didn't really like fully look like the actors almost, and I don't know like what was wrong about the shot. I don't know if it was just because of all the CGI.
I was
in it
gonna
or
say
something.
maybe just because like
But,
bad
like-
incorporation with the
But like
background.
sometimes like Michael Douglas like would not look like himself. And I was like, what is happening? Like, so my complaint for the characters in this movie is that they don't look like themselves.
Now, let's get back to the character of Scott Lang Ant-Man.
Okay.
Of just the character,
applies.
not the way they look.
No, that's like a what doesn't work.
Yeah.
You skipped
Sorry?
a little too far.
It's about
A
the
little,
characters.
a little
Like
Ant-Man, a little Ant-Man too far.
Ant-Man's he's funny, but he in this movie I think he has like a greater purpose. He's no longer the haha silly easygoing guy. He's like the I only care about my daughter, which is nice, you know. But it's also you can also be funny. I feel like the jokes on Ant-Man's part were kind of dialed back a bit. I don't know if you guys felt the same.
Yeah.
He was more reserved, but he was like he was the unexpected, like, well, there's an adult here, but you're like, but it's Ant-Man.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be the adult here.
Right.
Yeah.
So when he's like, don't say that, Kang, I'll mess you up. And you're like, I mean, we know he can, but it's weird coming from that guy. But yeah, no, he's fine. He's riding a high, so that's fun seeing him like, I don't need to be a superhero anymore. I pretty much saved the world, which he mentions a bunch because, I mean, who wouldn't? You save
wrote
the
a
world.
book about it too. That was a very
I'd write a book about
pronounced
it.
point.
Yeah. I think a very good ratio in this movie, the best ratio we've seen so far of Ant-Man to Giant Man in this movie.
Yeah.
Very good balance of both. We got to see him shrink and grow.
That's something I'm not a fan of, though.
Yeah.
I think, like, his name is Ant-Man. I think he could probably, like, obviously he can do more as Giant Man, but that kind of, like, takes away from his whole character. It's like, then just be Giant Man all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's
But then they'd
stupid.
have to rebrand the thing. They just
Right,
kind
it's
of
dumb. But I think you can do a lot more, like, cooler stuff visually with the smaller thing.
Yeah.
It's more effective when you're big, obviously.
because he's a big old guy.
You're
But
giant.
it was cool seeing both and like him being able to switch. Like Ant-Man is not in this stage of like, oh, I'm learning new tech or it's broken or I don't know how to use it. He's just like, yeah, I should be big in this situation, and
Yeah.
he's big. So it's nice to not have to deal with that in this movie. But don't worry, there's another character.
But I'm
who doesn't
confused
do it.
about the big in the quantum realm too. How does
Yeah.
that work? Because he's just slightly bigger. So why is he like running super slow if he's still super small?
Yeah,
He's
we're
just a
not going
little
to
bit
use
bigger.
science until we get to what doesn't work. Now we have Hope Van Dyne as Wasp.
I feel like she didn't play much of a role in this movie. Like she was there, and that was about it.
I just think I think when she was there, it was good. I just think she was overall underutilized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was because like it's called Ant-Man and the Wasp, but it really did not. She was in a couple of fight
Yeah.
scenes. She was, but I can't even think of any lines that she said now. Like besides like just some casual talk. I feel like she barely talked.
Yeah, there's a weird ratio. I'll over focus on Janet, but Janet was the one in the quantum realm, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I feel like this movie could have used with more Wasp, and I think having that balance, like when they're all together. Of course, this isn't a spoiler. When they're all together for the big fights at the end, you're like, yeah. But then it's like, why didn't we just have this the whole movie?
Yeah, I think it honestly should have just been called Ant-Man quANTuMAnia.
I think, yeah.
I don't think the Wasp was a big enough part of the movie, which kind of sucks. Unless you consider like, are we talking about both Ant-Mans and both Wasps? Because if we're talking about Janet, then I guess Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Then I
makes
guess
sense.
the Wasp.
I honestly would call it the Wasp in quANTuMAnia.
Yeah.
You know?
I would have called it
Quantum Waspmania.
Quantum Waspmania. Speaking of Wasp, we now have Cassie Lang as Stature. The newest.
Stature?
Yes.
Did they say that in the movie?
Once.
Did they?
I thought her name was Stinger.
Might be either or. Might be Stinger. She doesn't have
Stature.
stingers, though.
No, she doesn't, but I don't know.
But
Either or.
they're going
both of the
with
characters.
insects.
Both of the
What is-
characters.
What's Stature?
Stature's because she grows big. They're both like her name in the
Interesting.
comics.
That's dumb though.
Yeah,
Because
but
like
now that I'm thinking
Ant, Wasp, like
When
Stature.
you said Stinger, now I'm like, but she doesn't even have stingers on the costume. So why would she be called Stinger?
But is she? That's the thing in the comics, right? Stinger?
Yes,
Okay.
but she
That's what I
has
thought.
stingers in the comics. So
Right.
I'm confused why it would be either
Stature
or.
makes more sense
Yeah.
if she goes big.
But she also grows small.
Everyone can go big, apparently. We haven't seen Hope go big.
I don't know if, like, I bet Hank's like, oh no, that gives you cancer.
You're not doing that, sweetie. No.
Like, there's a reason why Wasp has
The
it.
Langs are fine. They can do whatever
Nah,
they
they
want.
can die. I don't care. But she's our newest hero. Another one to add on to the Young Avengers. Now for this one, for this character, she's fine, but she's one of those characters that's like, this is my fault. And you go, yes. And there's never a situation where it once isn't that character's fault that something happens.
It's one of those things too where it's just like if you could communicate clearly,
Yeah.
this movie would be resolved. I don't like movies like that. You
Yeah.
know? And Janet was the clear
problem.
crux of non-communication. You
Yeah.
know?
But Cassie was great. She's fun. It was cool seeing Ant-Man teach her how to punch
Wait,
as
Kim, did you
Ant-Man.
just talk about Janet when we're talking about Cassie?
Oh,
Jackson's
maybe.
going to have an A.
I was like, it's like, wait a minute.
But
I might have jumped ahead.
But yeah, suit's fine. It's purple. It's a purple Ant-Man suit.
It's purple Ant-Man.
Yeah, I wish they did
She
more
has
with it.
a thing where she learns how to use the powers. I don't think she ever figures it out, which kind of sucks.
It's fully like
She like does it once at the end, right?
She pulls
like
an Ant-Man 1.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense though.
Yeah, I
if
mean,
you've
it makes
never
sense. She
really
needs
used
to
the
learn.
suit before.
But
Yeah.
I like it when they fully develop the learning. I feel like it was kind of cut short. You know?
Yeah, which is weird because this movie's 2 hours long.
Yeah.
We now move on to Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. Now, I roped them together because Hank Pym is there.
He's there. He has one purpose in this movie.
I love Michael Douglas.
I love ants.
I love Michael Douglas.
He loves ants.
He's great in these movies.
Yeah.
He was barely in them.
Yeah.
And Janet Van Dyne, now she's like, but I can't tell you what happened. Is it Kang? Did you do something about Kang? Was Kang a problem?
That would have been really funny if Hope was just like, oh, you mean Kang?
Oh,
and,
Kang
and
the
Janet's
Conqueror?
like, what, you know about him? And she's
Yeah,
like,
no, we all
everyone
know about
knows
Kang the
about him.
Conqueror.
It was in the trailers.
Hank's like, oh, are you talking about Jonathan Majors' iteration of Kang? Sweetie, you know about that? Of course. I saw the poster. Yeah, but they were playing the pronoun game for so long, but it doesn't make sense because they say it like 4 times and then they go, the Conqueror. I'm like, cool, we'll call him the Conqueror until we see Kang. But they don't do that. They go back to him. He, don't dare speak his name. Why?
Why? There's no
It's not
reason not
Voldemort
to.
or anything.
Yeah,
like-
he's not like someone who's like, oh, someone said my name, I'm going to teleport to them now. That's not a thing. So I don't know why they were like,
Yeah, also-
we can't mention that it's Kang. We know it's Kang.
It's like she's like, you guys can't know about Kang, but also she did a heroic thing with Kang. Like, wouldn't she want to tell people like, oh, I stopped the literal end of the
Yeah.
world?
Yeah, yeah.
I was tricked by Kang, and now he's a threat. That's
can't
all you,
let him out.
That's all you need to say.
Yeah.
Right.
It wouldn't even confuse anyone. They go, oh, okay, so whoever Kang is a bad guy. Got it. You wouldn't lie about this, Janet. You've
May-
never done something to her.
Maybe she was like, ooh, if I tell them about Kang, they might want to give up and go home. Like,
I
no, they
think-
wouldn't though.
They boned. And I think that's where a lot of the trouble comes from. They were together for a long time.
And it's Jonathan Majors.
And it's Jonathan Majors.
Everyone look at the camera.
And as
You're telling me
Come on now.
you're alone with Jonathan Majors for years. You don't even think about it.
Come on.
Come on. It's
She
Jonathan
has
Majors.
needs.
exactly, I was gonna say a direct movie quote: "A woman has needs."
So does
Speaking
Hank.
of women's needs, we move on to MODOK.
He could fulfill.
MODOK, it was revealed like within the trailers and everything, but with slight spoiler warning, it's Darren from the first. If you
movie.
forgot, that's Yellow Jacket. If you forgot, that's the bad guy from the first Ant-Man movie. If you forgot, Ant-Man is the character who can shrink and grow. Now with Darren, when he gets beaten at the end of the first Ant-Man, he gets shrunk down, but for whatever reason, his head stayed big and his arms stayed small, which they never fully explained.
I think
kinda funny, though.
I think it was kind of like because Kang was the one who brought him back or like kept him alive. Maybe that was like a necessary thing to keep him alive.
Yeah.
It looked like he was coming out of a goop.
Yeah. Anywho,
That was
Big
funny. We
head.
saw his little butt.
yeah, we saw a little butt. MODOK was fine.
I liked him.
He wasn't.
He was
terrible.
good. I think they established something. They show exactly what they're going to do with MODOK from the moment you see him. That's fair to say without spoiling. The moment he enters the screen, you go, got it. This is what's going to happen. Not in like I can see the ending. They're like, you know what's going on, right? Like they don't try to hide anything that MODOK will do within this movie. They go, yeah, you're seeing what we're doing here. And you go, okay, movie. I'll see you in 30 minutes at the credits.
Right.
But MODOK is in the movie. That is what we can say.
Looked funny.
Looked
but, like
funny.
not in like a necessarily bad way, just
It's
funny.
just
Like,
there's
it was,
weird. There's like it's not
Weird
much you
proportions.
can do with a character
Yeah.
who's
we
a head
talked
with
about it.
tiny
Yeah,
arms and
it's
legs.
like,
But it
you would
felt
need,
more
like-
wide than it
Yeah.
needed to be.
The problem is, right? We can talk about this really quickly.
problem is?
Like technically,
Yeah.
they're filming it in IMAX, right? They would have to zoom in on his face proportion to pretty much fill the screen while they're filming like his face, which is maybe what they did. But then, even then, they're still
have to stretch it to
still stretch the
round.
resolution. Like there because of how high quality resolution the movie's in, stretching a face, they can't.
They
like,
can't
it's
high
not
def
gonna-
it to the point of like
Yeah, because the rest of the movie, you
he
get what I'm
does.
trying
He
to
does
say.
not look bad.
He doesn't. It just clearly looks like someone took a face and then just made it wider, I guess.
When he talks, it's weird. I'm uncomfortable when MODOK is on the screen. I think that's a fair
But
statement.
it's fun though.
But it's
like,
fun,
It's
though.
like I like that I'm uncomfortable when he's on the screen. It's fun.
Speaking about fun, let's go on to our final character, Kang. All right, Marvel.
Easily the best character.
Yeah, easily the best
In
part of the
this
movie.
Marvel, you did it. You pulled out another one. A good villain. Good villain. No quips.
Switching it up recently.
No quips. A very clear and present threat. Can kill anyone. Has a goal and will be bad if his goal is accomplished. That's all you need, Marvel. When you make Iron Mongor a guy who's like, I'll be Iron Man, I'm going to be a weapon, and I'm going to kill you. Sure, it's a threat to Iron Man, but what is he going to do afterwards?
Just run the company,
Yeah.
but to keep making weapons like they were doing.
Like, that's not the end of it's a very personal one. And in Ant-Man, we care because he's like, I'm going to kill your daughter. And what's cool is in this movie, Kang is like, I'm going to destroy the world and I'll kill your daughter. So you get both.
Yeah.
Both threats.
You can do both. They show that in this one. And I feel like that's where Marvel sometimes donks it up. Because Gore was great, but the problem with Gore is he's like, I'm going to kill all the gods. We've never met another god beyond the Asgardians, so I don't really care.
Then we meet gods and they're all
And then, oh, sorry, Jackson.
yeah. Yeah, thanks.
I have a censor bar. Kang is fantastic. Jonathan Majors, oh my God, especially with the fact that he is established very early on in Loki. There will be variants of him. I'm not fully sold on which is going to be the Kang. It could be this one. Because he's the Conqueror. He's called that. So I wouldn't be shocked if they're like, yeah, here's the big one. But we also know, especially with Loki season 2 and a bunch of stuff like that, we're going to see more Kang, maybe in other movies as a bad guy. I'm interested to see what they do.
I think this one is the main bad
I'd be upset if we lose this Kang.
Because he was like exiled, right?
Yeah.
And, like, why would you? Kang was exiled. Yep. Yep. We don't know by who.
We do know.
We do.
But
You
we
don't
don't
know.
want to spoil
We can't
it.
tell you.
We will talk you about it later.
We will talk to you about it.
The live
I promise.
studio audience just said multiple bad words towards me.
Oh, that's what cops do.
It makes sense if you watch the episode thus far. But anyways, Kang is fantastic. I can't wait to see what they do with him within these next few phases as the big bad. What works in this movie?
I think they had all the pieces. Like every time I see a picture from the movie, especially of like Kang or someone, or like an image of like Kang and Ant-Man together, I can remember the scene that happened. But to me, it happened way cooler than it actually happened. Like they had all of the things right. They just like almost like didn't connect them properly.
I think they had too many pieces. They had all the pieces to make the movie, but then they're like, oh, but we also have Goop Guy.
Right.
And then you're like, well, we don't need Goop Guy. He's like, but I
So
want
when
to.
you see things, you're like, that was good and that was good. Like I can pick out the good parts, but there was just too much.
There is still like an hour and a half of good movie in this. It's just that it is 2 hours, so to go through the 30 minutes of bad,
I think
which
the
is so
first
much.
45 minutes was just, it was hard for me to even feel like I was interested in the movie. It felt like I felt like they hadn't even turned the lights off almost.
Guys,
Like
we're in what works
I know.
right now.
This
we
is
should
a
start
typical
with
thing
what
with
doesn't.
Camden.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess we do this a lot.
So what works? Kang?
the things, I guess what I was trying to say is they had all of like the good visuals and the good key points. I think that they had the map for a good movie. That's what works about this movie.
Is that it could have been a better movie?
No, like there are like good
Yeah.
moments, but it's not enough to carry it.
Yeah.
Right.
Kang carries
It's
it.
overshadowed. Kang does carry the movie. I think the movie has good jokes.
Yeah.
A lot of good comedic callbacks at the end made me go, oh, do this.
I think that's a good point. I don't think they were bad jokes.
There was
is
a bit-
more
yeah.
to say.
There were a couple where I think they leaned in a little too hard, like the Baskin Robbins thing. Like I didn't need that, but for the most part, Ant-Man's a funny character.
I think, yeah. People, I think, complained about the humor in this movie. I don't think the humor was the issue.
No.
There was no problem with the humor because
Maybe they were
stays-
thinking
it's an
it
Ant-Man
wasn't
movie.
enough. Maybe they were like, this character's too emotional in this movie.
No.
He shouldn't care about anyone.
I'm positive the issue with it, and this will be what I talk about and what doesn't work, is something. But
Something.
I thought that the action sequences were really interesting when they built to something. So whenever like you could start to see the snowballing of like, we got to get on this ship, and then more elements get added to it when you finally get to the action sequence. You're like, this is cool. When you see Kang at the end, he's like, my minions, and you're like, oh, they're gonna have to fight all of this stuff that we're seeing on screen. This is going to be cool, and then they execute it well. It's just the in-betweens of that. It doesn't feel like a build-up to an action set piece, more, which isn't a bad thing, because that's what a lot of the Marvel movies that don't do well end up doing. But the problem is the things in between the setup to the action pieces either are like very, very great dialogue, or it's like a nothing scene. It's a nothing burger.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think we should move into what
No, I
doesn't
have one
work.
last thing.
We're going to stay in what works.
Stay in what works. I was gonna say they had to build a world for this movie, right? The quantum realm is this entire new place. I think creatively they did a good job. I think the characters, the animals we see, the ships and stuff like that, like the societies we see, very cool. Like I love ideas like that.
That's what I'm saying though. Like,
And then-
the ideas were good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But then when it's all up there, you're like, what happened?
It's less than the sum of its parts.
We can
Right.
get into what doesn't work, and I'll lead with the same point. CGI. CGI is,
So
it looked
I
great
think
in
the problem with that is pretty much the whole movie takes place in the quantum realm, which doesn't exist, and you can't use real set pieces
What?
for it. Like, what do you like? I don't know how you could even film not in a studio, like a soundstage.
No, I think they
You
used
can't.
the. I think they used the volume.
Yeah, and it looks better than normal green screen, but it's still clearly like when they first enter the quantum realm and they're just like, what is this place? I like couldn't even like make out anything.
No,
it was
it's
just
like
a
a bunch
mess of visuals. I was like, what?
It's a moving sky, and you're like, I don't know what the quantum realm should look like.
Like I don't know, like, and I know it's supposed to be confusing, I guess. We're not supposed to understand it, but like you can do confusing and visually appealing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to look like they threw up on the screen.
I also think that they could have done what they did with this movie with a different villain, and it would have been a better movie. And that's the weird part, because Kang is the best part. But when you have the Thanos of this new chapter of the MCU in this movie, you don't show me a fantastical world. I do not care.
True.
Show me this bad guy. Show me everything about this
Or
guy
spend
and what he's
very
doing.
little time on it. You know what I
Or
mean?
like, this is weird. And he's like, do you see? And the villain could even gesture and go, do you see this awful place? Do you see how weird it is? This is torture for
we
me.
didn't need all the subplots we got.
Yeah, there was too many elements of things that were paid off by a sentence. Let's get out of here. And you're like, we spent 20 minutes on this?
Yeah.
It was a little odd. I think do Kang or do the Quantum Realm Freedom Fighters? Not both.
Right.
Because that's just too much of a whatever. Right?
Yeah. I guess we're not like too into spoilers yet, but I feel like there's a lot of relationships in this movie that are not like sort of forced to happen.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like the characters care about each other for no reason, if that makes sense. Like in particular, I'm talking about like the freedom fighters and like the main characters. It's kind of like I guess they share a common enemy, but that's about it. And like they're almost too.
See, if you make it a different character, kind of like, it's Mole Man, and you go, that's weird. And then they go, we have to stop him. And Ant-Man's like, well, we need to get out of here. Yeah, but you have this other thing of Janet going, we have to stop Kang, where it's like, they're going against each other. Whereas if they all got trapped in the quantum realm and they have to beat Mole Man or whoever you put in that position, they help the freedom fighters, they stop them, they go home at the end.
Cooler if MODOK was the villain of the movie,
Yeah.
working for Kang.
Right.
Right?
That's what I
That's the
thought.
one little
I thought
connection.
it was gonna be like MODOK was the highlight, and then Kang was just going to be this overarching
bad at the
like
end.
threat where we get to know more about him. But he's not like
He's like an actual
immediate
antagonist of the
MODOK
film.
is Ronan, and Kang is Thanos. Or, like, because Ronan's like clearly like, okay, even if he
But it's
completes
like
what he
if
wants
in
to do.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Thanos came down after like Ronan lost and was like, poof, 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 and just
Yeah.
like beat them or something, like to beat them up. Like, and you're like, why is Thanos here now?
Yeah,
You know?
even
You're
if
like,
it's just like a one of the random minions goes, Kang, MODOK lost, and the heroes escaped. He's like, oh, they escaped, but they led me right where I wanted them to
Right,
go.
yeah.
And then you go, oh no, Kang's coming or whatever. Instead,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm MODOK and I'm Kang and I'm shut the.
we're gonna talk directly.
Yeah. And then you're like, okay, well, that was.
But maybe I don't know. Maybe they're going for a different thing. Like maybe in this
for a different thing.
phase, like Kang is the villain of every project, which is kind of cool when you
Which
think
is
about it.
kinda cool, but-
Might get old.
Yes. Especially
my fear.
when there's a Daredevil series.
It obviously like some things he won't. I'm talking about like the main
I'm
story
Kingpin.
points.
I'm going to
Like,
rule New York. And I'm Kang. What the
villain of Loki, villain of Ant-Man, probably going to be villain of Fantastic Four.
Yes.
I would assume.
Yes.
Who else? Like what else is coming out that he could be the villain of?
Deadpool?
Maybe, yeah, like maybe he's like hunting down. I think that's gonna be more TVA focus. I think.
Yeah, but
I
who
feel like
runs the
Loki's
TVA?
gonna tie into that. I know. Kang's gonna be like a part of it, but it's not
Yeah.
gonna be like Kang personally. Like in this movie, why was Kang personally like throwing hands? Like,
Yeah.
it was cool. But
I was impressed.
I mean, I think they just needed to have a way to introduce this version of Kang. Give him a reason that
Maybe-
he's in the world, but we haven't seen him.
I think you're
I think
right.
they needed
Yeah.
that.
Especially
And-
because not everyone watched Loki.
Yeah.
And so,
Which, if you haven't, go watch Loki.
yeah, it's very important.
It's a very
which is
good
so
show,
funny.
too. Yeah.
Loki season 1 is integral
is-
to the entire MCU.
I'm a fan of that.
It's so cool.
I'm a fan of
Just
that.
like one, like Sylvie
Because-
killed him, and
Yeah.
now everything is
Because
happening.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the next movie, you go, oh, Sam Wilson's Captain America. I guess that happened in the show, whatever. But everything that happens in Loki
Right.
is so important.
and it affects everything that
Yeah.
pretty much everything.
Yeah.
It's cool. I don't know. I like
Loki
I like the way that it's
caused No
going
Way
now.
Home.
Yeah.
Variants, different things like that. That wouldn't have happened if we didn't have Loki first to introduce that concept.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah.
Anyways, not on a better MCU project. Do you have anything else before we get into our rating?
One slight thing. God, I'm so tired of cliches. We don't
Mm-hmm.
need to say, where are we when we get into a new place?
Also, that doesn't make sense when they're like, this goes to the quantum
Yeah,
realm.
exactly.
They go to the quantum
Exactly.
realm.
Yeah.
Where
They're
are
just-
we?
Gee, I
The
wonder where we could
quantum
be.
realm.
Well, okay, that one I guess made sense. But I've been getting a lot of videos trying to explain plot holes from this movie, like I was complaining to you guys about. And that one, I guess, in the first Ant-Man movie, they explained that there's a quantum void, and that's, I guess, where Scott got stuck the first time in the first Ant-Man movie. And then there is like another phase in between that where there's like a temporal, like that's where all the time travel happens. And if you get past those two, then you're in the actual quantum realm. And so that's why Janet didn't age when she was in the quantum realm, because she got past like the temporal place and was like in like the normal quantum, like the actual, like where all like the beings are. And that's what they could never like see past the void or whatever.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they say that in the movie?
Right. Right.
Why
Wouldn't
didn't
that
they
be a
say-
cool-
They could have explained so many things. They could have been like, this is how aging works in the quantum realm.
Mm-hmm.
We are in here for multiple days, but we're only...
You haven't scratched the surface of the quantum realm.
Right.
Actually, that's all you did. All you did was barely brush against it. And within this barrier,
Janet could have easily explained
could
it.
have said-
She just didn't. She didn't explain anything, which was
Yeah.
stupid.
and then when
really
she did,
quickly,
Talk about
yeah,
that, yeah.
Catherine Newton, the recast, how do we feel about it?
that's fine.
I kind of liked it. I don't know. I
For
think
who?
the other actress that
Cassie.
played Cassie in Endgame looked a little old to have only been 5 years. Or
Yeah.
5 plus
Wait,
whatever
oh,
the
it
time
was
between
different?
Ant-Man.
Was it different?
Yeah, different
Oh, I
actress.
don't even know.
I think
but
that
the only thing is, I think she either had bad lines or she's not a good actress, which I don't think is true.
I think her facial expressions were a little over the top for some of the things.
But I think this is because she didn't get words to, like, she was just like, Dad, Dad, like the
Yeah.
whole time. Like, she had
don't
to give it in her
die,
face.
Dad.
she seemed like kind of
Also,
an annoying character to me. but-
Her,
Yeah,
Kate
not
Bishop,
her fault.
they're gonna hook up.
You think?
Convinced. That's my fan theory that I mentioned earlier. I thought about it because I think Cassie is a little bit lesbian. I don't know, just a little bit because of the way that she interacted with the leader of the freedom fighters.
Yes.
There was something there. I felt a little bit of chemistry.
But you're going to look me in the
And-
eyes and tell me that if you weren't with the leader of the Freedom Fighters, you wouldn't turn a
Man.
little bit lesbian?
Man, she was bad. But but I think
All right, all right.
I think Kate Bishop is also
a little bit lesbian?
a little. I think I just ship them. I don't know. I just think that's a
That's a
Oh
good
my
ship.
God.
thank you,
I'll,
Jackson.
I'll ship them as well just for you, Camden.
I'll ship
Thanks.
them in 3 days. No
Yeah.
extra handlers.
Are you
Wait, what
kidding
if I spend $20 extra for overnight?
I'll get it overnight to you.
Thank God.
Anywho, let's jump into our rating. What do you give this out of 5 holes? It makes sense if you watch the movie. Give this out of 5 holes.
7 holes. Can we rate it out of 7 holes?
Why do you want 7 holes?
That's what
Because of the
we were-
movie?
yeah, that's what.
But
we were
that's a
told in the
weird
movie.
rating. Because
Who
then you have to
cares?
do more math.
I have to do my math. You don't do the math anyways.
Yeah, but you're
You
going to
sit there.
complain about it.
Oh, calculator. But it's more funnier.
Out of 7
Dana,
holes.
how many holes do you have?
4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thanks.
It makes a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
This is a bathroom hole.
Okay, out of 5 holes, whatever.
Out of 5 holes, just a flat 3.5.
Yeah, I'm thinking around there. I want to give it a few more
I'm
points.
gonna give it
because-
3.4.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3.6. So 3.5.
Wow, wow, great
Wow.
work, team. Now, how do we compare?
Last I checked, critics were at like 48% and audience was at 86. So
We're between.
Right in the middle.
between closer to audience, I'd say.
That's also because the critics were like, "This isn't an Endgame movie."
This is a bad movie. It wasn't really a bad movie.
bad.
It wasn't much though.
It wasn't
No,
great.
it just wasn't my favorite movie. I don't know what all these people were saying. Like, this was a sci-fi movie. It didn't really.
You got to keep in mind.
What was that? Did you hear that?
I did.
Like
I heard that online. People were like, this is like Star Wars. Like, this movie is so much like sci-fi, Star Trek, Star Wars. And I was like, how?
I thought it was more so like Journey to the Center of the Earth, where it's like, oh, this stuff has always been here and you didn't know about it. That's why they look weird.
Yeah.
Broccoli head. And you go, oh, okay.
Now we're in spoilers, though, so we could talk about some cool scenes.
We're going to talk about spoilers right now. So, spoiler warning on the board. I'll give you a. Spoilers. So if you don't want anything spoiled or you haven't seen it, come back afterwards. But if you have seen it or you want to hear about the spoilers anyways, we'll give you some post-credit scenes, some extra thoughts. And what I want to talk about first, let's talk about MODOK. Oh my God. What?
I know you were so upset during the movie because every time I would laugh at something MODOK did, I looked over and he was just like,
I was just like, I was just like,
yeah, or his eyes would be like wide open.
Because they're like, hey, yeah, I'm MODOK. I can't fart anymore. And I'm like, what? Why? Who says this?
But isn't MODOK supposed to be like that? I don't understand why.
No, MODOK is supposed to be like this weird like automaton robot thing. But he is such a pushover in this movie that you never think that he's a mechanized organism designed only for killing. You exclusively see him as Darren. So whenever, like, when he has a scene with all the weapons, you're like, cool, but then he doesn't do anything.
I think they did a pretty good job. Every time he would, like, put on the mask and then he would, like, flare his weapons and, like, get angry. Like, I think that was good showing,
but that
like,
didn't
how
do
crazy
anything.
he was.
Yeah.
Sure, he didn't go recklessly
You know
killing
what would have been
anyone,
cool?
which was stupid. Someone should have died in this movie.
I was about to say, you know what would have been cool? He shows up and he goes, Darren, you look awful. And he kills Hank in the ship. How cool would that have been?
That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought that was like the whole point of bringing MODOK back is he's going to kill Hank. And Hank's the sad death of the movie. No one dies.
Well, no, that's
dies.
not true. MODOK himself
dies. Sorry, no one important dies.
Yeah.
No one of use dies.
Yeah. But
that was a funny scene, though.
I can't complain. That death was probably the funniest death we've had. I don't know how
it was
they
really
managed to
long,
make a
but it was
death
awesome.
funny, but it was really good.
It reminded me of the Deadpool 2 kind of death. The thing with that is like, that was the closest it felt like to Thor Love and Thunder. But it didn't like ruin the movie. I was just like, if it goes any lower, I'm not going to enjoy the rest of this movie. If it continued, but it was fine. Because like, I died in Avenger. And
that was funny.
Yeah, you died in Avenger.
I don't know. I thought, and like the whole Cassie being like, don't be a d***. It's not too late to never be a d*** or something. That was funny too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There were moments like I really think I just disliked the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
The second half of the movie was for sure much better, but maybe that's because a lot more Kang.
There's a lot more happening.
And like they actually felt like they found a direction halfway through.
Right.
Bill Murray's in this movie, and then he's not.
Mm-hmm. And
I think he died.
I think he died. Yeah.
He died by a calamari.
He got
drink.
like picked up by it for sure.
Yeah.
Presumed dead.
Anywho, we now know the big threat.
Yeah, we should talk about.
Kang is going to kill other universes because he saw a little Doctor Strange situation. He saw once the Kangs start doing multiversal travel, that is great. They all profit. They go back in time, make themselves rich. They go back and make themselves intelligent, powerful, whatever they want to do, whatever version of them. Most of them awful. He realized that a lot of those end up with incursions where two timelines bash into each other and kill a bunch of people. So he's like, I'll be the middleman. I'll kill everything for the most part. I'll wipe out any timeline that can become an incursion so it never happens. But that's the similar thing to Thanos. Slightly different because Thanos is like, I warned you. Kang was like, I'm just doing it to save everyone. And they're like, why are you killing all these people? And he's like, because. And then he got
Have you heard
banished.
the Beyonder theory?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to explain it? I feel like you do a better job.
So there's a rumor that Secret Wars, the sixth, which is weird. It shouldn't be 5, but it's 6. The 6th Avengers movie is going to be a Battle World situation, which in the comics is one planet with a bunch of different places scattered together, like the Savage Lands, where we'll see a bunch of dinosaurs, a Wolverine, and all that. But the idea that they kind of have rumored for the movie is a bunch of the old characters, Hugh Jackman, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, all the Fox characters, all the old movies, maybe even Wesley Snipes' Blade. They're at that too. That's where we'll see a lot of those characters communicate. But it's also where Kang, a version of Kang, is also the Beyonder, the bad guy of Secret Wars. And the Beyonder is like this interdimensional being who made Battleworld, where he's just like, I want you all to fight for my amusement.
So people think that this Kang, who got sucked into the multiverse engine, gets sent beyond time and becomes the Beyonder, and or kills the Beyonder, becomes, in some way or another, becomes the Beyonder, and then comes back after the event of Kang Dynasty, where all the other Kangs, because in the post-credit scene, they're like, we have to do something. Presuming Kang Dynasty is what happens when they decide to do something. Secret Wars will happen when the main Kang from quANTuMANia comes back as the Beyonder to bring everyone together for Secret Wars. Is the current theory that people have.
And with that theory, I don't think that's that interesting. I feel like if it's a bunch of Kangs we've never seen who are fighting the Avengers, I don't really care. If it's one or two of them that we've seen.
I think it's going to be the main three that were at the post-credits.
The robot Kang, the Ramar Tut, that's the bad guy
Scarlet
for
Centurion
that's
is
the
what people
bad
think
guy
it is, right?
for the Fantastic Four, Ramar Tut. And then the dragon guy. Who the fuck was that?
Well, they think it's Ramatut, Scarlet Centurion, and someone else, right?
Who was that? The one who's like, I called for all of them. Who the fuck was that dragon one?
I don't know. They went over. I've seen videos about it. People think they know who it is.
But
We'll have to look it up.
Like I clearly saw, I was like, that's the Pharaoh one. There's a weird robot future one. Whatever. I'm sure it's something. And then
they think it's Iron Lad, right?
Yeah, but that's
who became evil.
But maybe they'll do that. I don't really care. And then there's a dragon one who's kind of dressed like the Mandarin, the Iron Man 3 Mandarin, the very offensive Mandarin. And he's like, I called all the Kangs. And I'm like, why is he blue?
Yeah,
but he wasn't like blue like Kang. It was just a blue dragon.
I liked that post-credit scene though. That was
That's cool. I'm
Seeing
excited.
all of them show up.
Yeah.
I liked the tech where they teleported in was like
Slightly different, too.
A little bit different than what we saw in Multiverse of Madness from Reed Richards, but like still the same tech
because it's his grandson.
Because it's a grandson.
Anywho, the other post-credit scene. Remember how we mentioned how Loki was the most important thing ever? There's a Loki one. This is the only one I thought they were going to do. I called it Mr. Timely, this old inventor. Some people are like, oh, that's the original Kang. It's not. It's just another variant. But that's pretty much a lead-in into Loki Season 2. That's what they're doing right now. Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston are back, and they're trying to track down different Kangs and snuff them out before Kang snuffs them out, maybe? I don't know.
How, if he's Reed Richards' grandson, how is he alive?
He time traveled probably.
Because that's what the one above, He Who Remains, said. He was like, once we invented it, that was it.
Like
we could meet each other, and that's where the Kang Council.
You know, another thing that doesn't make sense.
What's the thing that doesn't make sense?
If Kang has killed the Avengers an infinite amount of times, how can he ever lose? How did he lose to Ant-Man? I don't get it.
Ants.
We
didn't talk about that ending.
I just
that would have been so much better if it was just the ants and not the Freedom Fighters. And we focused more on. We talked about this. Focused more on Hank. Talking to the ants, maybe, or like actually discovering, not just be like, oh, they made a Type 2 civilization.
Yeah.
Now they're here to help us.
Explained well.
Huh?
I liked that scene. It was funny. It was funny, but because
you know what? Maybe that's where they explain the temporal thing, because he did say they got stuck in a different part of the quantum realm where they like aged differently.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I guess that's kind of when they went over it.
And they formed a Type 2 civilization.
He said they lived 1,000 years.
But then how did
even 1,000
they
years
get from the temporal to the quantum?
Well, they're Type 2
realm?
civilization.
I don't get
they figured it out.
Well, space ants.
Hank called to them.
Ants. Anywho, with that being said, the ants come in and they beat Kang. And it makes sense because in that one, there's like a million ants running at him. And he's just getting overwhelmed. And then MODOK literally like blindsides him because he like does an EMP or something that messes with his tech. Which is like, cool. That's the only way that you could beat Kang.
Is he has tech. Like that's his.
Well, no, we saw in the very end when Kang was going to run through, he has 1,000 years of martial arts because he almost beats the shit out of him.
Right. But I'm just saying, like,
he doesn't have powers.
Like, he's not
just really smart.
Then how is he able to just move people with his mind?
See, that's the thing. That's the cool part about Kang is that he has tech that is so advanced it looks like magic, which is similar to Thor, where they're like, it's magic and tech together, so it looks the same. Because we've seen a lot of magic recently in the MCU, where it's like Scarlet Witch can just turn people into string.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange can make space weapons. So it's cool to see someone just have like this thing. Oh no, it doesn't pick you up using your thing. I'm using the iron in your blood to lift you up magnetically and throw you against the wall. You go, oh, that's terrifying.
Gotcha. I just wasn't sure what his powers were based on what we saw in the movie.
It looks like magic too.
I think you're kind of just supposed to be like, he could do anything.
Because he
that's what I thought.
He takes like a step down and floats on this blue little telepad. I'm like, is that how? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of like
so advanced tech.
I think his power is if he wants to do it, he probably can figure out.
He can make it something to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's now cultivated like a set that he figured out works for him. And he's like, this is what I go with.
I like lasers that disintegrate people from existence.
Yeah, that's terrifying too.
Why didn't he just use it against Ant-Man?
And why did he, when he did use it against Ant-Man, did it just knock him back?
Yeah.
That was weird.
Was this a blast or did he do the beam? And Ant-Man just blocked it good enough.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know.
Ants. It has to be the ants.
Has to be the ants.
It's the only explanation. They were a Type 2 civilization. They figured out how to counteract the Kang beam.
I don't know why this was my favorite thing that happened action-wise, I just like when Wasp was like, I hope this works, and she's small and she's throwing a smaller Ant-Man into it, and then he quickly grows into Giant Man and just cannonballs himself into it and blows up the thing. Because they don't know how Kang's time travel works.
To
It's
me,
just like,
though,
I think it's
there
the
were
rings.
too many conveniences against Kang. Like,
Yeah.
why did it take him with all of his technology like 10 minutes to launch up his spaceship?
Yeah.
Even though it was a multiversal core engine that had presumably unlimited power that powered
Yeah.
his entire facility. Why did they need a force field with rings to start spinning?
And yeah,
Why wasn't it instant?
And why wasn't it also the base? It was like just the building he was in. If he wanted to teleport everyone, wouldn't he want?
If it's teleportation, you would think it would be a similar function to how he teleports with those
Yeah.
things, which is instant. That's instant.
He
There's no
makes it-
rings spinning.
Yeah, but I think it's because he was trying to teleport the entire.
He was
like,
trying to
city.
teleport
Yeah.
the army, but
Wouldn't Kang
So,
go
I
like
guess-
after a certain point, being the conqueror, go nah, this? I'm just gonna take myself
Yeah,
out. and
I
just-
don't.
and he tried to at the end by like jumping through the portal, but
Yeah.
like let's be honest, he would have made it. There's
Yeah.
no way that he would have been beaten by Ant-Man at the end there.
Well, he was beat by both of them,
Yeah, I know.
Ant-Man
I know.
and the Wasp.
I know, but up until that point, it was just Ant-Man, and then the
Yeah.
Wasp was like right at the end.
I
I was
like,
oh, he's taking too long. Let me go help.
yeah.
him.
I
And
think
then-
that
oh god, we didn't even talk about how there was no like. You would think at the end that Ant-Man and the Wasp would be stuck in the quantum realm because they just defeated Kang. The portal closed. They look over the city. They're like, we did
it.
good.
And he
Yeah.
had that line earlier that's like, I don't need to win. We just both need to lose or something.
that's like cool.
Yeah,
Ant-Man's gonna
cool.
die.
And you're like,
They're gonna-
okay,
he's gonna
at
die or
least
he's gonna be stuck and
It's
he's
a
gonna lose time.
sacrifice. Like
It makes sense too
and then
because
they open the
Ant-Man's
portal.
whole arc is about lost time. Like the first movie, he does time for doing the right thing for stealing the money. In the second movie, he does time in the quantum realm for doing the right thing again. And in this movie, he should have done time in the quantum realm for saving the universe again. Like that's his whole thing. He serves time for doing the right thing,
Yeah.
and they got rid of it. But there's another theory. At the end of the movie, because things end exactly the way it started, people think that Kang put him in a time loop.
Oh,
And so and that's why he's like, but is he dead? And
Yeah.
that's why there's like an eerie feeling at the end of the movie where you're like, what?
I did really enjoy.
I
the
loved
ending.
that. The ending was really cool and like ominous. Like
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, Kang's not gone, obviously.
Yeah.
I like
You know,
he's like, but they said don't kill him, and if they kill him, then he gets what he
something
wants.
worse is gonna happen. And
Did I just kill everyone?
Yeah.
Whatever. And then keeps
Yeah.
walking. I thought
don't
that
know.
was cool. But all in all, I think it was a fun time. Still not the best Ant-Man movie, which is weird. They got it on the first try, and they have not yet captured it. You know
I
what
think
it
it's
could have
hard
done?
though. It's hard when you have a novelty thing.
They should have had Anthony Mackie show up in this one.
Yeah.
I think that would have been it. I don't care for what reason.
Like if he just like was getting dinner with Ant-Man and like or like brunch in the beginning scenes.
It should have been.
Did you
It should
see
have
the
been
guy
Jimmy
from
Woo and
Yeah.
from
and-
BuzzFeed Unsolved? Was
Yeah.
in it? Why was he? He was just getting dinner with Ant-Man. I thought that was funny.
Oh.
But I thought it was
A lot
like,
of just random cameos.
and
in
I'm
the
not
beginning.
even kidding. I think just having that interconnectedness, and not with everything needs to be because that's what Kang's for. I'm saying just having like he's established, he's respected, and he's a hero. Like have him like just chatting with like blah blah blah, and they have like a scene where he's like, "So what's it like being Captain America?" He's like blah 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 blah, and then they just continue with the movie.
Yeah.
I think
mean-
little scenes like that because Falcon randomly showing up in the first Ant-Man, you're like, "Oh, we're in the MCU."
Yeah.
In this one, you're like, "Yeah, we know Kang. Yes, that's the big bad, and nothing else is like touched on, and it feels very end of the worldy while still being very
No,
enclosed."
but they did touch on the line from Civil War when he gets small and says, "Does anybody have orange slices?" Because he got big,
Oh,
and then
right.
they said,
Citrus.
"You want citrus, don't you?" And Cassie was like, "Yeah, I really want some citrus right now." I was like, "Wow, that's a really weird line to call back to, but like kind of cool."
You're
I
like,
guess.
"Wow, I'm glad that this is happening.
This is what I wanted right now.
This is what I wanted in the Kang movie." Overall, I think it gets an okay out of this. With that being said, thank you all so much for joining us for our 100th episode.
I think we should sing us out.
Okay?
Good.
Goodbye, yellow brick road. Jackson, you have to sing it. Road.
I don't know why that.
No, because it was in the trailer. Dude, don't daunt this up. This is the 100th episode
What
of
is
Ruby's
wrong with
Talking
you?
Movies.
Great work, guys.
You don't talk during the song, Jackson. You don't
Jackson, that
talk
was
during
the
the
whole
song.
point.
No. I had to end it.